Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast interview. I'm excited to have the Experian Automotive team on today's podcast. I have Kelly Lawson. She's a product marketing manager with Experian Automotive. And I have Kirsten VonBusch. She's the director of product marketing at Experian Automotive. Ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Brian. It's a pleasure.
You know, I love talking with your team because you have such a massive data set. Obviously, you work with dealers in a privacy compliant way and provide really unprecedented insights into consumer behavior, consumer psychographic, demographic, helping them decide when to reach out to consumers or maybe make them aware of events with their customers they're not even aware of. So let's start at the very high level. Dealers are well aware that they can do email marketing, they can do Facebook, they could do Google, they could do retargeting, they can do OTT, but all of that comes down to the basic question, Brian, who should I be contacting at the very high level for managers who are just frustrated that they're like, my marketing agency keeps on asking me, who would you like to market to this month? And the managers are saying, hold on, aren't you the experts? So let's start a very fundamental level. What should dealership managers be thinking of before they start their first marketing campaign?
I'm happy to jump in on this one, Brian. This is such a great question, and it's so important to take those few moments, those simple steps prior to jumping in, because we see this time and time again that people just select an audience. I'm going to target these people. I'm going to market to them. But where, as you said, Experian Automotive, we have so much data. And we're like, let us help you leverage that data to make data-driven decisions. Analyzing your customer base, analyzing perhaps your competitive set, understanding who you want to go after and why, and how you can best reach them and message them for ultimately campaign success.
And Kirsten, I think you hit on the fundamentals is, hey, analyze either the people in your CRM or DMS or lookalikes to them. But Kelly, one of the problems that I see is that consumers react differently. Like, for example, if you look at my wife, she loves to lease cars. She wants to turn her cars every 3 years. If you send her a finance offer or a cash offer, she's not interested. That gets thrown away. How does Experian help dealership marketing campaigns make sure that they understand maybe the buying psychology of different consumers in the household, instead of just saying, all right, everyone in this household thinks alike and acts alike?
So very true. We have several buyers or car drivers in my house that people have bought cars, and each one of us is very different. I think the real power comes in the breadth and depth of the data that we have. It's vehicle data, it's credit data, it's consumer data, it's your market data, and being able to look at the consumers, looking at them using all of the information at hand and being able to identify trends. So you want to be able to identify, yes, things like lease versus retail, because we have that same issue at my house, except it's role reversal with my husband wanting a new car all the time, and I'll drive a car forever. Same kind of situation where you want to be able to look at lease versus retail. You want to be able to look at segments. We can be able to have predictive analytics about what segments people might move into, what vehicles they might move to from another vehicle, being able to be aware of those factors. But there's also all of the information about that individual person. For example, for me, I'm a digital person. I stream anything I watch on TV. I'm a serious radio listener. I listen to Spotify music everywhere I go. Everything is digital. My husband, on the other hand, he is old fashioned. He likes to get things in the mail. He likes to be able to read the newspaper. Believe it or not, he still buys the newspaper, right? And then I have my teenage daughter who's living in social media. So you think about all these different places where we could be receiving the marketing. That comes into play, finding the preferences of which channel is going to hit right for the consumer so that your marketing doesn't fall flat. You have to know what vehicles they want to buy. You have to know what channel to hit them with. And then you have to know what kind of message they're looking for. Are they looking for a celebrity endorsement type message? Or are they looking for a vehicle value and longevity kind of message? Are they looking for the best deal, state of mind message? So what we've done with the Experian marketing engine is kind of packaged all of that complex data together. We've created heat maps where dealers can see the opportunities in their backyard and be able to identify for models they want to sell off their lot or models they want to acquire, because today's day is a whole lot different than it was 3 years ago, right? So we have to be thinking about both sides for the dealership. What's the right marketing message that's going to resonate? How is that message going to best reach their consumers, where the consumers are actually spending their time, whether it's in their inbox or on their computer screen or on their cell phone or in their mailbox, right? Being able to know all of that. So it's building all those layers of data, and we just want to make it really simple. So we'll put together that information so that dealers can have a really good strategy that's very intentional. And what that does is it allows a dealer to market to their consumer base with the feeling of an omni-channel experience, a fully customized just for you experience, but in a multi-channel way, which in other words means the dealer can get a really personal feeling message out to resonate with their customers at a lot lower cost than doing a specific individualized campaign for that one person. We can be really strategic and intentional because our data-driven messages and strategies really hit home.
You know, all of that sounds like the nirvana.
Yes.
But, you know, dealers asked me these questions, and so I'm just going to pass them to you. Is that so? I look at my mother-in-law. She loves reading the newspaper every day.
Mm-hmm.
She is not a streamer. She's a linear cable, watcher, right? And, her daughter, my wife, she'll watch any channel at any time. She's really not a news watcher, but she'll stream, she'll do linear, she'll watch sports, definitely not reading newspapers, has no interest in the news. So we have within the dealer's DMS and CRM, these extreme personalities. How do we make sure that those audience don't get too small, right? I mean, Facebook has a minimum audience, Google has a minimum audience. How do you build a marketing campaign knowing that some of these segments would create too small groups? Where's the middle ground? Because dealers would love to be able to say, if I give my data Experian, I say, I want to sell trucks. You're going to come back and say, all right, these are the people with likelihood of interest in trucks. And since we know their psychographic and we know their demographic and many other things about them, here's your Facebook campaign, here's your Google campaign, here's your email campaign, here's maybe a CRM calling campaign. How do we make sure it's not too granular?
And I think that's a great point, Brian, because anything that we're going to do at Experian is going to be in a privacy safe manner. So, taking a look at that audience, taking a look at that information, perhaps combining it, where maybe it is combining it with other insights or information. I mean, we could combine multiple audiences together, or we could do modeling and do, kind of quote unquote lookalike audiences, because any audience that we're going to leverage is going to be in that privacy safe manner to make sure that, we are reaching consumers in an appropriate.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, right? Is having a partner that they can rely on that delivers privacy compliant audiences that are effective. And one of the top questions, and Kelly, you hit it, things are different, Dealers are desperate to find used cars. And so I'm working on a project with a tech company to build microsites dedicated to direct-to-consumer buy centers, right? It's like, very similar to what Carvana has done with their commercials. And dealers ask me, say, Brian, if I make like cash, we pay top price for used cars. Okay, the website's up, the trade tool is awesome. It's perfect. Now we have to get people there. How would you answer a dealer? And it may not be an easy question, but we don't shy away from hard questions. They come to you and say, I want to spend 10 grand and I want to saturate my local market with a message that will buy your car for top dollar. What signals, what behaviors, what data would you use to start to model and test?
There's a wealth of data. It can't be just one source. I think that's part of the challenge. You've got to be able to have a very deep database. So it's not just about having a list of customers. That's where, it was in 1990, right? And in 2000, just having a list of customers. We've really had to mature in the face of a pandemic and then a chip shortage. Now we have used inventory shortages and all those other challenges. We really have had to get into audiences. And like Kirsten had indicated, being able to do lookalike audiences and evaluating the customers, the consumers in your area. Candidly, I can't tell you for sure exactly how many without looking at that actual dealer's backyard. So it all depends on where that dealer is, what the population is like in that dealership. If you want to sell trucks and you're in New York City, it might be really populated, but your volume is going to be totally different than if you want to sell trucks and you're in Dallas or Atlanta. Just to be, for example, so we have to look at all of the data, right? We have to look at the consumer preferences. What are they currently driving? We need to look at the statistics that compares people when they move from one vehicle to another. What kind of vehicle do they move to? So that we can be able to evaluate that data. With new vehicles and new models entering the market all the time, there's always levels of fluidity there. And part of what Experian does is constantly monitor and evaluate what is happening in the consumer market. We make that all available for dealers to be able to see in the Experian marketing engine with graphs and charts and reports that they can be looking at themselves. So we're going to really take a look at all of that data for the consumers' vehicle preferences. So if they come to me and they say, this is my budget, and I want to saturate to be able to buy those vehicles, I'm going to help that dealer get that word out, right? By finding the consumers in their area, not just from their DMS, right? Conquesting around that dealership, but I'm going to also be really transparent about those zip codes and how far we're going and where are more pockets of opportunities. In some situations, you might want to go a little bit further north into the west because those people are buying trucks. You don't want to go to the south because those people aren't buying trucks. Like looking at all of that data and trends. It's not just enough to say, I want a list of customers in this radius.
I love that. I love that, because, sometimes we oversimplify things. And I ask these questions because these are the questions dealers ask me. There is no magical thing. And I also tell dealers, when you develop a consumer direct buying center, I'm sure Carvana didn't get it right the first time. And I'm sure that you have to test the messages, the creative that would encourage a consumer to come to a website and see what their car is worth, especially since many consumers are finding out their car is worth more than they ever imagined. But one of the things that I saw as I've been looking at the Experian marketing engine is your predictive analytics, the predictive capability of knowing people in advance that maybe in the next 6 months, this person has a high likelihood of being in market. Maybe it's because their lease is up. Maybe it's because they just had a life event, maybe a new child in the home. I'm not sure what all the triggers you have, but tell the dealers who are listening here how some of your customers are using your predictive analytics to get a jump on the competition, so their message is getting in front of that consumer before they're actually in market.
Yeah. I think that, Brian, you were hitting on it, and Kelly mentioned it as well. Of it's not your 1990 list, right? It's not even your 2000 or your 2010 list, but dealers have a wealth of information, right? They have amazing first-party data, but there is no shame in the game of appending and combining that information with second and third-party data to identify and reach consumers across their preferred channels, right? Like, how can you take what you have, and whether it is clean it, maybe people have moved, people have married, divorced, so on and so forth, but also append it, right? It's not just about, hygiene and cleaning. That's very important, of course, right? We need current information to contact customers. But how can we append information and insights, demographics, psychographics, so you can make those informed decisions and really have those targeted messages that you might not have those insights with just your own first-party data?
Well, I'm absolutely in agreement with that, Kirsten, because we only know what we know. In our home, right? I have my Honda Pilot, which I bought from one dealer. Carrie drives a Mercedes SUV, which we bought from another, and we have a fun Corvette in the garage, from another dealer. So each one of those dealers only sees one vehicle in their DMS, and appending either, hey, this is a family, or this is a person who has 2 or 3 other vehicles, which brings me up to a question just came in my head, Kirsten, as I'm hearing you about this powerful concept of enhancing the dealer's own DMS data to fuel richer, more personalized marketing experiences. Every dealer should understand that. But what about EVs? And it just hit me. It's like we're entering an era where, for the first time, Ford dealers and Chevy dealers and others are bringing, Cadillac dealers are selling an EV. Now they're going to have to figure out, like, hey, who should I be marketing this EV to? In my database. Has Experian Automotive seen any correlation or any data paths that could flag a consumer that the dealer's dealing with, or just on a conquest basis, someone with a likelihood to be flexible that their next car could be an EV?
Absolutely. I could talk about the EV opportunities for, way more time than we have today, but I'm so glad you asked about it, because absolutely, Experian Automotive, we have that insight. We are releasing several new EV audiences, and they're hitting on exactly what you're talking about, Brian. So whether it is in-market audiences, so those people are in market for an EV vehicle, or they're likely owner audiences, people that own an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid vehicle. And how can you take that information and those insights? I mean, just to give you kind of a perspective of the scope of this, right? So if you're looking at kind of a larger marketing opportunity, we have over 270 syndicated automotive audiences, so available from like a big platform perspective in the market. And of those, over 70 of them are focused on electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles. I mean, that's over 10%. And certainly a lot more than what the current market represents from a vehicle in operation or a registration standpoint. So we acknowledge, we recognize, and we're prepared to support dealers with this EV growth and shift.
That's great news. And one of the things that I'm absolutely surprised that more dealers aren't aware of, the Experian marketing engine. Now, I know it's relatively new, but the dealers who are listening to this podcast, I already know what they're thinking. Wow, I'm not a data analyst. I'm not a data specialist. How am I supposed to map out my PMA or create a zip code map to see the opportunities. But what you've done is created a portal, and there's two entry points. Dealers, please, if you're listening to this podcast, you should know that your agency can subscribe and access the Experian marketing engine to do the data hygiene, do the data appending, do the audience building, or dealers, especially larger dealer groups who are listening to podcasts, your internal marketing team has a login, and in there you can go in and do all the things that Kelly was talking about and Kirsten was talking about exploring your market, looking for possibilities. Kelly, for a dealer who may be a little overwhelmed with the vast amounts of data, the Experian marketing engine would allow them to go in and say, if they wanted to create a Facebook audience to go after a certain likely truck buyer in their market, you're going to show them where the opportunities are. They can highlight those areas, build the audience, and ship it off to Facebook. Am I making a fair representation that
you're making a fair representation, and I'll even go a step further because I married a GM to a car dealership, so I know how much they're doing at one time and how little time they have to data mine, right? I know it. We also have performance managers. So the dealer has access. They can do anything they want to do. They can dive into that data and look at those heat maps and have reports sent to their email address where they're looking at market analytics and all of that stuff as much as they want to. They also can talk to their performance manager and say, I want to find truck buyers who blah, 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 right? They can be able to just essentially put that performance manager who is going to consult with them, right? Do what they want, but also let them know, hey, here's some great opportunities that you have. Here's some things that would work really well for you. They're going to coach, but they'll be happy to help find the opportunities to build the audiences and say, hey, check your email inbox. The audience is there waiting for you to download it.
Yeah.
So we want to keep it as simple as we can, but for dealers who want to dive in and get, the neck deep in data, which I don't know very many GMs who do, that is available for them as well.
Yeah. And it's important to understand that Experian Automotive has deep partnerships within the agency community, new tools for self-serve, and then also self-serve and directed execution. And that was the other thing I wanted to make sure dealers understood. Sometimes dealers have a feeling, I'm not sure if my agency is keeping up with things, or I'm not sure my agency is deploying these audiences correctly. Isn't it true, Kelly, if a dealer said, hey, I want help picking the right audience, this is my business goal, not only can Experian build the audience, but they can actually execute the campaign on behalf of the dealer directly?
Yes, we do have a package option that gives dealers the access to the portal and the coach and the audience and all of that, but it also offers an end-to-end solution that literally takes those insights, that data, puts together a marketing strategy that matches that dealer's goals, and then uses the audiences that support those strategies, and we work to activate those. And that package is going to include all kinds of things, because remember, consumers have a really diverse interest set, right? And preference set. They're going to have Facebook ads. They're going to have direct mail. They're going to have over-the-top banner ads and addressable television ads and emails, and everywhere a consumer spends their time, that marketing can happen. It's set up on a timing schedule so that you kind of feel like somebody's trying to tell you something, because remember, we're trying to catch people early in their buying cycle so that we can drive that buying cycle right to your dealership, not somewhere else. We're not waiting till they've shopped you against 5 other stores, right? We want to catch them even before they're fully shopping so that we can guide that journey. And those messages hitting in a really good, consistent cadence over time really result in success, with the dealer literally just saying, this is what I'd like to do.
I love that, because today, with inventory shortages and supply chain disruptions still impacting. I was talking to Honda dealers recently, and they seem to be the most skeptical on when new inventory supply will be coming, where Buick GMC dealer just last week got 60 trucks on a trailer. So depending on the OEM, things are shifting. And I just want to let dealers know that if you're in a supply restricted environment right now, remember these messages that you could be putting out from a consumer direct buying center, for your service department, for future build to order campaigns. All of these things keep your dealership top of mind with consumers, so that when inventory supply increases, you already have a cadence, a relationship building, and a higher likelihood that they're going to do business with you because they've been seeing your ads. This is an important topic, and I'm so glad that Experian Automotive is going to be at the Modern Retailing Conference in Palm Beach, Florida, November 13th, 14th, and 15th. Modern retailing requires, just as Kirsten said, not your grandfather's old list strategy or index cards as an extreme example of, hey, this is how we keep in touch with our customers. We need to let the data speak, and the data is more complex than ever. But thankfully, through machine learning and AI, audiences that have high likelihood of exceeding dealers' business goals can be created with Experian Automotive. And we're going to be talking about data-driven marketing solutions, success stories, and of course, the team at Experian Automotive will be there to answer your questions. But you don't have to wait to MRC to get those questions answered. Kelly, what's the best way for dealers who are interested in the Experian marketing engine, your custom portal, or your full service digital solutions? Where's the best place for them to go?
I would say probably the Experian website is going to take you right there. You can go to the Experian.com website and select the automotive, and you can pick dealer or agency, depends on who wants to have the questions. That's probably the best place to start. There's even a form where you can submit information. You also could reach out to me. I'll be happy to forward any questions or answer anything I can. And my email is kelly.ll, so there's 2 L's, kelly.lawson@experian.com.
Great. Well, we love that. And for dealers who are listening to today's podcast, you should know that there are dozens of interviews with industry leaders, disruptors, and innovators who are specifically talking about solutions to help dealers be more efficient and more profitable and develop a modern retailing strategy. So make sure you check out all our podcast interviews. And also, one last reminder, the Modern Retailing Conference will sell out. So please book your tickets and hotel rooms in advance by going to modernretailingconference.com. Since it will sell out, don't send me any hate mail in November if you can't get a ticket. So make sure you join me and the team at Experian Automotive at the Modern Retailing Conference. Kelly, Kirsten, thank you so much for being on today's podcast.
Thank
Brian,
you.
thank you so much for having us. It's always a pleasure. We're so looking forward to seeing you and the entire team in Palm Beach in November. And, Brian, I wanted to mention just one thing as we talked about electric vehicles today. So, as you said, we have so much information and insights to share at the workshop at the conference in November. But, we also are doing quarterly reports, and these are absolutely free. So 100% totally available to anyone interested. And we have 3 topics: the state of the automotive finance, market registrations, but we have a new one, automotive consumer trends. And I mention this because the trends report that will go live later this month is focused on electric vehicles and electric vehicle buyers. So just something for your audience that is out and available on Experian.com in our thought leadership space. They can download the report. They can listen to the recording to hear the additional analysis and details, and completely free, available to anyone who's interested.
Kirsten, that is great. And I remember the last time we were on, you released a really big update on these free research reports. And I love the fact that Experian is investing in dealer education to help with strategy and to identify trends so that they will allow innovation to work to their advantage. Well, you heard it. Get to Experian.com, go to Automotive, and look at the thought leadership articles and the research that's free. Be a student of modern retailing for, well, enabling the success of your business in the days to come. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast, and I'll see you soon on another podcast session.